Wouldn't it be cool to take our favorite Overdrive pedal and just to be able to utilize that with nothing else to get some great guitar tones? Well, the folks over at Soniccake have this little pedal here called the Sonic IR, and it is an impulse response loader pedal that is in a very small form factor that works really nicely. I was quite impressed with it. Very well built. And what this allows us to do is to store 11 impulse responses, and we select them by the little front panel knob here. And we also have a volume control. We have our power in, we have a balanced and unbalanced output, and we have an input. So this comes equipped with 11 impulse responses built into it from the factory that we're going to listen to in just a couple minutes. And I'll show you first, before we listen to them, what they are emulating or what they're based off of. But it also gives us the ability to load our own impulse responses. Now, little caveat there, they have to be 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, 24-bit mono. So we would have to have our impulse responses in that form factor. Then we simply just plug this in via the USB 3, and it includes, when it's shipped to us, its own little USB cable to work with this, as well as our little owner's manuals. They also ship it with some nice 3M Velcro to affix to your board. So if we have impulse responses in that file format, we will be able to use them on this and create our own little custom impulse response banks with the impulse responses that we use. I'm also going to test that later in the video with a York audio impulse response I had kicking around at 44.1 kilohertz. So I got to say, it's built very well, very solid, and the price on this was $59.99 through Amazon. I had it overnight. I'm going to have a link to it below. It is an Amazon affiliate link, so I get a few pennies every time somebody clicks on that. But if this is something that you think would be of use to you, maybe carry on and listen through and hear how it sounds. I'm going to be using it, as I'll show in a minute, with the Bogner Lagrange pedal, one of my favorite Marshall in a box style pedals. So let's go over and take a look and see what this is all about. So before we take a listen to how the Sonic IR actually sounds, let's take a look at what cab models come preloaded on it from the factory. As we already mentioned, we have 11 IR slots that we can customize with our own custom IRs. We can just simply drag them in there, and we'll try that out in a couple minutes as well. But here are the ones that come custom loaded. Number one is the Champion 1x8, which is a Fender Champ 1 8-inch speaker cabinet. They have the Vox 212, which is a Vox AC30 212 cabinet. TR65 212, which is a Fender 65 Twin Reverb 212 cabinet. The UK 2550 212, which is a Marshall 2550 212 cabinet. They have the BM 59 410, which is a Fender 59 Bassman 410 cabinet. They have the Tanger 412, which is an Orange PPC 412 cabinet. They have the UK 1960 412, which is a Marshall 1960 AV 412 cabinet. We have a 6505 412, which is a PV 6505 412 cabinet. They have a Mebo 412, which is a Mesa Boogie Rectifier 412 cabinet. And the final two are bass cabinet impulse responses. They have the M-Bass 210, which is a Mark Bass 210-inch bass cabinet. And they have the A-Bass 810, which is an Ampeg SVT 810F 810 bass cabinet. So now that we know what cabinet types they are, let's take a listen to these different ones and see just how this sounds. Now, if you notice my setup over here, I'm using one of my favorite Overdrive pedals that I own and I've ever used, which is the Bogner Lagrange, which is kind of like a Marshall in a box style pedal. Lots of tweakability and functions. I'm not going to really go too deep into that today, but just we'll hear what the tone sounds like. We have that going directly into the Sonic IR, straight into Cubase, no other effects, no reverb, no nothing. So it's going to obviously be very dry. This is a direct recorded signal. If we have this on our pedal board, there's nothing against adding delays, reverbs, and anything else. Like, we can use this basically with anything we choose to that sounds good to us. So really interesting stuff. So here is number one slot on the Sonic IR, which was, I believe, the Fender Champ 8-inch cabinet. Might not be the cabinet you would choose with a Marshall style amp in the box pedal, but we'll see how it sounds. And we'll just go through these. I apologize for my hand being in the way. I'm going to switch to number 2. Now, obviously, we could use the controls on the Lagrange pedal. You know, I could go to the tone control, crank that up. And really tweak the tone from there also. So that's the sound of the Vox AC 3212 cab. Let's keep going. All right, that's the Fender 65 Twin Reverb. Let's go to a Marshall 212 cabinet now. Let's move on to a Fender Bassman. Moving on to an orange 4x12 cab. Now, obviously, you're going to have to dial in your pedal to work with whatever tone we're getting. So, you know, I could maybe bring some high end in on that. So we can really tweak it to whatever each particular IR needs. Moving on to a Marshall 1960 cab. I mean, I'm really impressed with this. You can get some great tones out of this. This is, remember, just my Marshall in the Box Bogner Lagrange pedal straight into the Sonic IR, and that's it. There's nothing else. I can make a record with this quite easily. Now we're onto a PV6505 412 cabinet. Moving on to the last guitar speaker cabinet, this would be the Mesa Boogie Rectifier 412 cabinet. And then we have a couple bass cabinets, which are always fun to try on guitar. So there you have the built-in tones. I would say even with that, there's a lot of usable sounds. I could take nothing but this and make a record easily, and I don't think anybody's going to really complain about the finished tones. It's going to depend on what you're feeding into it. I'm using my Bogner-LaGrange pedal. You can use whatever flavor of overdrive pedal you want, and obviously you're going to tweak it to make it sound good with whatever IR you're using in here. But I think this is a really usable box, and for the price, it is extremely impressive. Now, one of the nice features of it is that we can load our own impulse response files. And one thing to keep in mind, they have to be 44.1 kilohertz at 24-bit and mono. Very important. And all we simply do is we plug it into our computer through the USB-C port. It is a USB-C port. They do include a USB cable along with it, as I mentioned before. And it simply pops up as if a USB stick would pop up on your computer, and you simply drag over the files. Now, you do have to rename it. There's 11 slots, so whatever the name of your impulse response file is, you need to put a 2-digit number before it. 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, or 1011. And that's how the pedal is going to know which slot to load that impulse response in. There's also a file called file list, which we must delete, and that will be recreated by the pedal next time you disconnect it and hook it back up, and it creates a new playlist of files, I believe is how it works. So that's an important point to remember. But let's try this out. I have a York Audio Friedman cab I purchased a while back here, and I'm just going to simply go drag and drop one of these into a slot and rename it with the 01 before it, and then we'll come back and we'll take a listen and see how that sounds and if that works seamlessly. All right, so I loaded up a York Audio impulse response file at 44.1 kilohertz, and it's loaded up fine. I've tested it really quick here. It's working. Sounds great. I gotta say, it was a little bit clumsy using the Sonic IR pedal in this way. When you do plug it into the computer, a folder opens up, and just like it would with any hard drive or USB stick that you plugged in, you drag your file over. I didn't have to alter the York Audio IR in any way. It worked fine. It was a 44.1 kilohertz impulse response. It's about a 72 kilobyte file, and it took an exceptionally long period of time for it to actually get over there. It should have been instant, but so I don't know what's going on with that. Sometimes when we are using these pedals that are a little less expensive, they are going to cut corners in some ways, maybe on the guts inside. I mean, so far it sounds great, and we'll listen to this York Audio impulse response in it as well. But it's interesting that I thought it would have just been a little bit more seamless. Now, what I did have to do is go and rename the York Audio impulse response file by adding the 01 before it. So it's going to be in the number 1 impulse response slot in the pedal. One thing to keep in mind, though, is I checked the properties of the internal storage of the pedal, and the maximum amount of storage space is 236 kilobytes. If you have maybe some impulse responses that are longer in length, I believe the pedal's going to truncate them down to 1,024 samples anyways. So if you're loading it up with larger impulse response files because they're longer, they may just take up a lot of space, and you may not even be able to fit 11 of them on there. The ones that are included with this are about 10 or 11 kilobytes. So just something to keep in mind, and something that wouldn't be obvious until you start using it. So I want to let you guys know about that. But again, it's, there's workarounds here. If you only have 3 or 4 IRs that you're using, you may not even be using all 11 slots anyways. So the York Audio impulse response seems to have worked fine. This is one from their Friedman cab. I'll put a link to this particular one below in the description as well, and go give the fine folks over at York Audio a look. But it sounds like this at these settings on the pedal. So great sounds from that as well. So it does seem to work pretty effortlessly, I guess, with third-party impulse responses also. So that's basically the Soniccake Sonic IR pedal in a nutshell. $59.99. I had it overnight from Amazon. I'm going to have a link to it below for anybody who thinks they can get some use out of it. Just in full disclosure, it's an Amazon affiliate link. So when you click on that link, I'll get a few pennies from every sale. It really doesn't amount to much, but it helps me to keep the videos going, I guess, if anybody does click through that. If you are interested in a pedal like this, it's not going to be for everybody, obviously, but I thought even as a backup, you know, having that on a board with an overdrive pedal, you're at a gig, maybe your main rig goes down, you've got something to get you through that's going to hopefully be pretty foolproof. It really seems built well, built like a tank, feels nice and solid. So I so far in the little amount I've used it, I would completely feel comfortable recommending it, although I haven't used it live and I've only used it for a minimal amount of time here in the studio, but seems to be a nice little backup to have in some situations live or even in the studio. I could totally see myself making a record with this with no problem. I was really happy with the tones out of it, and the addition to be able to add your own impulse responses seems to make it a bit of a no-brainer. So check the link below. If you guys want it, please click through that. It's my Amazon affiliate link. And maybe this is something you can add to your pedal board to make one of your existing favorite overdrive pedals into more of a complete rig. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like the video, share it with anybody who you think would get some use out of watching it. And please subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Ciao for now.